coming. This is a super exciting evening that we have planned out for you all. So we're super honored to have Amiji come in and speak with us and have a Q&A and interact with us. This is truly a very valuable experience for us. Amiji is currently on tour in the United States, traveling to the various Hindu Yuva chapters. So we're lucky to be able to host her as part of her tour. So we have Amiji. She's a renowned author. So part of tonight is we're going to have a talk by Amiji and then a nice time to have Q&A. So be sure to be thinking of questions throughout the talk. You'll be able to ask Amiji. She's very knowledgeable in Itihasa, so it'll be a wonderful opportunity. And then afterwards we'll have book signing. So we have books available for sale through Zelle and Venmo. And then there will also be some light dinner served. So I'll share a little bit about Hindu Yuva. So Hindu Yuva is a student organization on campus. The Yuva stands for Youth for Unity, Virtues, and Action. So that's mainly what guides our work on campus. And we work to preserve, practice, promote, and protect Hindu Dharma. So whether it be through our general body meetings, our festival celebrations, workshops, speaker on campus events, and a wide variety of things. We've been on campus at Georgia Tech since 2012, so this is our 11th year here. And we have a great size of population. We have a great student body size that's involved in Hindu Yuva activities. So we have general body meetings that take place twice every month. So we have lots of regular attendees for that. We also have Vedanta Study Circle that takes place every Friday. And we also have large festival events for, say, Ganesh Chaturthi, Diwali, Holi, etc. We've also had Sanskrit workshops and various other workshops as well. So these are just some of our events. We had a speaker on campus just around this time last year. It was Nilesh Nivgant-Okji. He had given a talk about the Ramayana. Then we had Raksha Bandhan with the Georgia Tech Police Department, which was a wonderful celebration with them. And we've also had several Diwali events. So now I'd like to share a little bit about Amiji. So Amiji is a strategic consultant, and she has experience over 15 years in the industry, and she also attended IIM and Laban. She, in addition to her career, is interested in various things, including Indian knowledge systems, yoga, itihasa, and spiritual life. And so she has 2 published books, Mahabharata Unraveled and Ramayana Unraveled. Both are wonderful books, and they've received lots of praise. So those are the books that we'll have for sale today. And she's received lots of credit and appreciation for demystifying a lot of the common misconceptions about both these. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Amiji to the stage. Before we begin, I'd like to invoke Shri Ganesha. So please follow along with me. Just say it as I say it. Shuklam Varadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantayet. Now let's give A round of applause to Amiji.
Namaste, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Krishna. Extremely happy to be here today amongst all of you. I know it's a working day and still all of you have come here, so very happy for that. I'm very grateful for that, so thank you so much. You saw the schedule. I will not talk for that long. I'd rather open it up for questions because I know there will be lots of questions. In fact, just outside we had started talking about a few questions that were in mind of Rita ji. So I'll speak for 15 minutes max, maybe even less, just setting the context. And after that, we will just discuss. Yeah, so whatever questions you have in mind, please feel free to shoot. In fact, when we were talking, the thing was why Ramayana Mahabharata? Yeah, you see, I've been, you like all of you, I've been an engineer, I did my MBA, I worked as a business consultant. Then how come Ramayana Mahabharata? I'm asked this a lot of times. It so happened that while I was working, I was a business consultant, and then at some point I moved to Hong Kong. So I moved from consulting to strategy. It was a corporate role, so I had some more time. Just at that point in time, I was reading this book called Being Different of Rajiv Malhotra ji. And what also happened is that in Hong Kong, I was working with like 15 different nationalities because I had an Asia Pacific role. It was very interesting for me to see that. We talk about stereotypes. And we are usually told, don't stereotype. But interestingly, a lot of stereotypes are very, very real. Yeah, we could see that in action. There is a certain way in which Indians would behave when they are faced with a problem. Now, they could be second generation Indians as well, or third generation Indians as well. Yeah? There is a certain way in which Germans function. There is a certain way in which Chinese function. There is a very, very typical way in which Japanese function. So, somewhere these stereotypes, of course there are always exceptions, but they're very real. And then, as I was reading Being Different, the case which Rajiv ji makes is that somewhere this is also coming from the way we are brought up. And this bringing up is somewhere coming from our sanskaras, sometimes which we are not even aware of. Yeah? So the question was, what does it really then mean to be a Hindu? So if I say I'm a Hindu and I'm behaving very stereotypically like a Hindu, then what does it mean? Now I'll give you another example. It's so common for us that we take it for granted that in any Hindu family, you'd have a father who's a Shakta, a Devi Bhakta, a mother who's a Vaishnava, yeah? A son who will be like, oh, I do only Hanumanji's puja. A daughter who would be like, I don't do any puja. And it's all fine. We take this for granted. But when I met people of other faith, I realized it was actually such a distinct Hindu character. Right? You wouldn't see this happen in any other family. It's very rare to find people going to different church denominations also within the same family, right? So then what is it that makes us the way we are? If you look at the diaspora, it's rare to find Hindus out on the streets wanting to have only a certain code of law, which is aligned with their religion, right? You don't see that anywhere. So we are one of those special diasporas who rarely, who just mix into the country that we are a part of while retaining our distinct character. Why are we like this? Why do we behave in this way? So this was a question I anyways had in mind. And at that point, I started dabbling a little bit into what are the scriptures. Kuch nahi malum tha. I had no idea. I was like, acha, why do we have so many scriptures? And then, dhire, with more study, with more guidance, little bit things started falling in place. But I was still very confused because somewhere Mahabharata, Ramayana have always been topics of very passionate discussion amongst everybody, yeah, especially if you've grown up in Bharat or even otherwise. We all have been introduced to Mahabharata, Ramayana at some point. It's very rare to find somebody who has has no clue about what these stories are, right? However, the discussion always boils down to this person is right, this person is wrong. This person did something very wrong. It was totally not correct. Yeah? वहाँ तक तो ठीक है. Later on, what has happened, especially in the last few years, it has become a narrative. Now, a civilization which goes back multiple thousands of years is now being labeled as misogynist, is now being labeled as outright casteist. Yeah? Not to say that we've not had our problems. We've had our problems. But my question was that is it really being defined with what the scriptures say? Is it really that even today we are what the past was? Or have we improved or we've gone back? I did not get answers to these questions. The other thing was, I was also confused about what was the purpose of these shastras. Because whenever we talk about Mahabharata, Ramayana, especially Mahabharata, and I'll say Mahabharata because that was really what made me curious. Ramayana, I was like, can't relate only. Okay, I was like, Sri Ram, not for this generation. Can't understand. Yeah, very rigid, very stubborn. And the only picture you have in mind is of Arun Govil, who's always just one expression, just this smile. Yeah. So I didn't even go that route. My interest was Mahabharata because Mahabharata is fun. We say diplomacy, Krishna, break rules, it's all okay, right? So it was a lot more fun, a lot more happening. But also the question was that what is Mahabharata really saying? Is it that sab chalta hai? Because we keep hearing that, oh, the villains, while we call them villains, the Kauravas, we call them the bad guys, they actually were the good guys because they never broke any rules. Pandavas, they won. But they actually broke all the rules. So while we consider them good and dharmic, they were actually the bad guys also. So then what is Mahabharata really trying to tell us? Also then we are always told about this sukti which comes in history, that history is written by victors. Right? Hence, those who are victorious tend to become the good guys. Likewise, Pandavas are good guys because they are victorious. Kauravas, who actually could have been the good guys, have become bad guys. Now I'll tell you, this is not just some random person speaking. There have been academic papers written about this. That how actual Ramayana and actual Mahabharata was the other way around. The Kauravas were the better guys. Just because Pandavas won, they are now considered the good guys. So while I had a lot of questions, one was this, that does it really, is that true? Then what is the purpose of the Itihas, which is also called the Pancham Veda or Dharma Shastra? Because clearly there is nothing of Dharma coming out. If this is what it is all about, that good guys are actually the bad guys are the good guys, I'm like, what dharma are we even talking about? What are these texts trying to tell us? Yeah. So that's where my study began. Now let's do this together. Do you agree that history is written by victors? Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it with our history. What has happened to it due to the colonization, right? But then, let's ask the question whether this applies to Mahabharata. First, Ramayana will come to. Okay, who composed the Mahabharata? Ved Vyasji. Who was Ved Vyasji? Satyavati's son. Satyavati and Parashar Rishi's son. Satyavati then got married to Shantanu, who was the king of Hastinapur, and then they had two children. Vichitravirya and Chitrangad. Chitrangad died. Then only Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya had two wives, Ambika and Ambalika. But he died. So then what happened? Niyog happened. Who was called for Niyog? Ved Vyasji. Then it was through the Niyog that Dhritarashtra and Pandu and Vidur were born. So who was Ved Vyasji? Was he the court poet of the Pandavas who was trying to make them the good guys? Who was Ved Vyasji? Come on. Engineering students, Georgia Tech. He is the blood father of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, which means he is the actual grandfather of Pandavas and Kauravas. Can there be a more unbiased source of history? Can there be? Also, if he wanted to be biased, who would he be biased towards? Why? That's right, he would be biased towards Kauravas. Why? Sympathy for what?
No, as per what you said, they were the good ones. So maybe he saw it.
No, but this you are already inferring. I'm saying, why were they the good ones? Why did that inference come from? I am actually saying history written by victors is not true for Mahabharata. Because it is not written by a court poet. It is written by somebody who's a part of the family, who's actually equally related to Pandavas and Kauravas. And even then, if he had to be biased, he would be biased towards, as somebody said, Kauravas. Why? Exactly. The true blood lineage is with the Kauravas. Right? Pandavas were again born through a sort of neo only, na? Pandu's blood is not flowing through them. So Vedvyasa's blood is not flowing through them. So even if he wanted to be biased, he would have been biased towards his children by normal logic. Right? But more importantly, he is, as I said, not a court poet. He's a rishi. We hold rishis in a certain stature. That itself is enough to prove that this may not have been histories written by victors. But going a step further, he is a contemporary and the actual grandfather. There cannot be a more unbiased source. So while yes, history is written by victors is right more often than not, does not apply to Mahabharata. So all these theories are just bakwas. Okay. Now the other question is, as my own ye was, why do we need itihas to begin with? Right? What are the texts trying to tell us? Is it all about, as I said, trying to judge people? This was right, this was wrong. Is it all telling us that it is all grey? Like people say, it's all grey. Good is bad, bad is good. Everybody's good and bad and good. Yeah, I was like, if that's the case, then why are they even telling us this? This makes no sense. So when I started researching further, okay, actually there's one more question and maybe I'll club the two. I'm sure a lot of you also have that question. Because we call, Parampara calls Mahabharata and Ramayana as itihas. But today, more often than not, they are called mythologies. Okay, now mythology by itself is not really a bad word. Okay, because sometimes we get very upset when somebody calls it mythology. Mythology means a group, a belief system of a group of people. Okay, the twist is the belief could be true or false, could be true or mithya. When it is said in context of Bharat and Hindu Dharma, more often than not it becomes mithya. That's where the problem comes. Yeah. But the Parampara calls it itihas. Then how should we understand it? Okay, now there are lots of research, there's a lot of research going on the dating. You had the talk of Nilesh Oji, right? So on the dating of how this has happened, because the text consists of a lot of such observations, which a normal text which is meant for only entertainment, which is Natya, will not have. It has genealogies and genealogies. So in Mahabharata, there are about 50 kings, ancestors mentioned. 50 kings in the lineage of the Paurav Vansha, Bharat Vansh is mentioned. Yeah. In Ramayana, you have about 33 in the Sri Ram's Vansha and 23 in Sitaji's Vansha. And the descriptions, the geographical descriptions, the tirthas, all of that. There are so many descriptions. I mean, why were they going into so much detail if the idea was only entertainment? Just to make it like 1 lakh shlokas so that nobody could read, is it? That couldn't have been the reason. So, one is all of this. Of course, as I said, the other archaeological research and all that is going on. But more than that, our rishis have done a very clear categorization of texts within the Hindu scriptures. It starts with Smriti and Shruti. Shruti is Ved Upanishad, and only Ved Upanishad come under Shruti. Okay, then there is Smriti. Now within Smriti also, it's not just one big chunk. Within Smriti we have the Dharma Shastras, which include the Manusmriti, the Yagnivalkya Smriti, Parashar Smriti, all of that. There is the Darshanas. Then we have Itihas, Puran, and many others, but Itihas and Puran. Okay. Even within Itihas, Puran, while they are used together more often, Itihas, only two texts are called, which are Mahabharata and Ramayana. Even Garud Puran, Vishnu Puran, Shiv Puran, they are not called Itihas. Okay, they are called Purans. Then why are these two texts called Itihas? That is, let's understand the word Itihas itself. Every Sanskrit word comes from a root word. For Itihas, the word can be broken down as Itiha Asa. Asa. Rohan, Asa means what? You are a Sanskrit student.
It means as it happened.
To be. Asa is to be, right? The past tense is Asa. So Asa, Itiha Asa means so it was, thus it happened. Aisa hua tha. Okay. Itihas itself breaks down into Aisa hua tha. And then we are given the definition of Itihas, which says, I've said it a lot of times. Anybody wants to volunteer to say what the shloka is? Anyways, it says, Dharma Artha Kama Mokshanam Upadesham Samanvitam Purva Vruttam Kathayuktam Itihasam Prachakshate. Purva Vruttam. There is no confusion whatsoever. Purva Vruttam, something that has happened in the past. Kathayuktam, narrated to us in a katha format, which means there could have been certain exaggerations. There could have been metaphors. But these metaphors and exaggerations are not that big if you go back to the original Valmiki Rachit Ramayana and Vyasji Rachit Mahabharata, that they change the course of the narrative of the story. They don't. Okay. But there is an element of that because it was oral tradition. They wanted it to reach to a larger audience. Yeah. So there is Kathayukta. But even more important, this Itihas is being told to us with a reason. There is an Uddeshya. The Uddeshya is to give us the Upadesh of Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, the Chaturvidha Purushartha, which form the basis of the Hindu Dharma. Not going into the details of that, just think of it as pursuits that are required to live a worthwhile life. That is, these are the Upadesh of that, like how should we live our life, comes to us from Itihas. Or the purpose of Itihas is to give us the lessons of life from the life of our ancestors. Now again, lots of books tell us about what to do, what not to do. Smritis are also that. Dharma Shastras are also that. Okay, how to live your life, to give Upadesh. Then why Itihas? How many management students do we have here? Any management students? No management students? Okay, fine. Case study methods. Anybody's done case study method? Why do we have case study method?
To learn a particular direction of thought and to apply things.
Application, right? Theory hai. We know the theory, but still, mostly in management, we study through case studies. We understand the application of the theoretical concepts through a given case study. What is a case study? A real life example of how this theory has been practiced because it's business in certain business or in certain business problem. Yeah? And through that, seeing how that played out, how was that actually implemented, what worked, what did not work, you learn from that and the concept becomes even stronger in a way that we can actually implement it in our lives. Okay, that is why we have case studies. I love to say this, that Itihas is but a case study that explains to us how should we live our lives from the life of our ancestors. Okay, now the immediate next question is, and with that I'll probably open it up for questions. How do we know which is the original Itihas? Because we are told there are so many Ramayans. Okay, there is Ramcharitmanas, there is Kamba Ramayana, there are many other Ramayans. Mahabharata, actually not that many versions, but there are lots of manuscripts. So how do we know which is the original Ramayana? Okay, So one person asked me, ma'am, do you have the actual manuscript that Valmiki ji wrote? I was like, obviously he didn't write it, right? He composed it. He was not writing it. So nobody will have a manuscript that Valmiki ji wrote. But over time, we at least have what we can go back to say that this is the foremost version which can be used. Okay, and a lot of work has been done to arrive at that, which is the work of the critical edition. But more importantly, while there have been lots of retellings, all the Kavis who've done the retellings themselves credit the original source to be Valmiki ji. Okay, so while a lot of sociological commentators do not want to acknowledge that, and they say kuch bhi chalta hai, because that allows them to actually interpret and retell and come up with theories like Ram Ravan Yuddha is actually a racial fight of Aryan Ram and Dravidian Ram. And again, I am not quoting my own imaginary example. People have actually written that. Serious studies going on in lots of humanity divisions of universities. Yeah. Because they're like, kuch bhi chalta hai na? We have Ramayana is told every time. Ramayana is for every yuga. Every time it is told. It can be retold, but let's remember, from an ऐतिहासिक value, there is only one, which is Valmiki ji Rachit, because he was a contemporary of Sri Ram. Similarly, for Mahabharata, it is Vyas ji Rachit. And then, I don't want to get into details, but there are critical editions published where multiple manuscripts have been collected to see which is the most consistent storyline. Okay, based on that, we have critical edition of both Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now, even for those researchers, there was one aspect which really stood out, because they were expecting a lot of variations across different manuscripts of Valmiki Ramayana and different manuscripts of Mahabharata. Was there variation? Yes. Kahi there will be some event, kahi there will be extra stutis and stuff. However, what shocked them was that, by and large, the stories were very, very, very consistent. For Mahabharata, they actually collected 1200 plus manuscripts. Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute. 1200 plus manuscripts were collected, based on which the critical edition has been written. Okay, so while there will still be questions, this is as best as we get, but also the thing is, how is it that what we get in Nepal versus what we got in Kerala versus what we got in Kashmir, how are they still so consistent? Then to we can believe that the core has stayed consistent. And why the core staying consistent matters. Let me take just one example. Okay, on one end we are told this is mythology and hence mithya. On other end, events from the same itihas are used to brand us as Jativadi, casteist, whatnot. Yeah. Now again, I'm not saying we've not had our problems. So I'm not here to defend anything. I don't need to defend anything. I'm here to tell you what the actual text talk about, without trying to defend anything. But what you will see is that what we think needs to be defended is actually not even there. Okay, let's take one example. All of us know that Karna ke saath bahut atyachar hua. Right? Why? Huh?
Mother abandoned.
Mother abandoned? Yeah, but that is not the key thing, na? Sudputra. And we remember the television everywhere. It's like Sudputra, Sudputra, Sudputra. Right? It's like a gali that has been given to him. Is it really a gali? What does the text say? So many times in the text, the word Kshapta is used for Vidur. Okay, Kshapta is an identity suchak shabda for a mixed jati of Kshatriya and Shudra. Why? Because Vichitra Virya and the Shudra Dasa. Okay, it's a Shapta. It is not meant as any gali. Okay, Sanjay is called the Suta because he comes from the Suta community. Let's take one example. One more example. The narration of Mahabharata that has come to us. So, Mahabharata composed by Vedvyaji. Okay. The first public rendering happened in the in a yagna of Janmejay. Who is Janmejay? Anybody knows? Parikshit's son. Parikshit is Abhimanyu's son. Abhimanyu is Arjun's son. Yeah? So Janmejay is like the great grandson of Arjun. He has a yagna going on, and in that yagna, Vedvyasji and his students come. So Janmejay has a question. Janmejay is like, my forefathers were great men, men of great character. Then why did they fight such a destructive war? What led them to commit so much bloodshed? I want to know all about it. So then Vyasji tells Vaishampayan, who's his Shishya, that please narrate the story of the Pandavas and Kauravas. Okay. In that yagna, there is another Rishi. His name is Ugrashrava. He's a Kathavachan. Okay. So this Rishi hears, he's very happy listening to the story of the history of Pandavas and Kauravas, and he goes around to Naimisharanya. Naimisharanya is basically a forest. There he comes to the Gurukul of Rishi Shaunak. Okay. The Shishyas of Rishi Shaunak ask him, Rishi, where are you coming from? Swamiji, where are you coming from? And he says, I am coming from this yagna, where I heard this history of Kauravas and Pandavas. So they want to know more. Okay. And Ugrashravaji obliges. And you know how this story begins? This is Adi Parva, first sarga. Okay. It says, Sauti Uvacha. Sauti Uvacha. Sauti Ugrashrava, a Rishi Ugrashrava, comes from a community of Sutas. Okay. Sutas were charioteers, we know. Okay. Sutas were also Kathavachan. Now let me tell you one more thing. Who was the wife of Abhimanyu? Uttara. Uttara was the daughter of who? Where did Abhimanyu meet Uttara? Do you know the story? Virat Desh. So, in the 13 years of Vanvas, when they are living in disguise, the Pandavas find shelter in Matsya Desh. The king of Matsya Desh is Virat. Okay. Virat's wife is Sudeshna. Sudeshna's brother Kichak is the Senapati, is the commander of Virat's forces. And Kichak is so powerful that when he tries to violate Sairandri, who's Draupadi, Virat can't do a thing. He's that powerful. And about Kichak, it is said that only 5 warriors could have killed him. He was that powerful and an excellent warrior. Okay. Kichak, brother of Sudeshna, mama of Uttara. Uttara married to Abhimanyu. You know what is Kichak called? Sutaputra. We are told Karna was not allowed to study because of his jati. And Sutaputra is a Gali. Kichak is a Sutaputra. Sudeshna is a Sutaputri. So the Pandavas who hate Suta so much go and get a daughter-in-law who's a Suta. Half Suta. Does it make sense? No, absolutely not. Then what is the truth? Yeah, they marry Suta. But you know who are Sutas? Suta is a mixed jati. Like Shakta is a mixed jati. Suta is a mixed jati of Brahman mother and Kshatriya father. Nobody ever tells us this. And this is not even like somewhere coded and encoded that nobody can figure out. Sutas, what are Sutas as a mixed jati? That is mentioned in even Smritis. Okay. But the television has so made Sutaputra such a bad word that we think of it as a Gali. It is not. But then the immediate question is, if what I am saying is true, then why did Dronacharya not teach him? Correct? You should have that question, no? Dronacharya refused to teach him only because of his jati, correct? Guys, no response. when Dronacharya is recruited as the guru for Pandavas and Kauravas, many other princes and many other, friends of the Raja also sent their son. So Adhirath is called Dhritarashtrasya Sakha, as the friend of Dhritarashtra. Yeah, because he was also his charioteer at one point. Now, हम लोग charioteer सुनते हैं तो हमारे दिमाग में we think of it as a driver. Was that the case? No. A warrior's life in the battlefield was in the hand of the Sarathi. Otherwise, Krishna should have been angry, no, when Arjun makes him a charioteer, if it was that bad a thing. Chalo, Krishna, Arjun, the friends. Why did Shalya agree when Karna wanted him to be a charioteer? He should have said, no, you are insulting me. I'll go away right now. और वो भी एक सूतपुत्र का charioteer. सोचो. If everything was so much about, if that was such a jati-obsessed samaj as we are told it was, these things wouldn't have happened. So clearly, being a charioteer was not looked down upon. And Sutas were not just charioteers, they were warriors. They were also kathavachaks, they were also rishis. Okay, so coming back. But we know that Karna goes to Parshuram. That story is also there. How does that happen? The story goes that Karna was very jealous of Arjun because he saw that Dhanurvede Viryam Adhika Alakshya. He saw that Arjun was way better at Dhanurved than himself. Okay, so he realized if I want to defeat Arjun, I will need to learn the Brahmastra. So he goes to Dronacharya and tells him that Brahmastra Vektum Ichchami. I wish to learn the Brahmastra. Dronacharya Gauramanasya Karnasya Viditva, knowing the bad ill will that Karna has for Arjun, refused to teach him. Karna says, okay, if you don't teach me, I will go to some other guru. Dronacharya says, be my guest. And that's how Karna goes to Dronacharya. Goes to Parshuram. Okay. Now, why am I telling you all this? I mean, I can go on and on about Karna. I won't, I'll stop here. But the point is, an event which otherwise we thought was all about jati, and hence the inference we draw is, the Samaj was such that if you are born in the wrong jati, you can never succeed. Look at Karna. Okay, when you actually read the text and see whatever happens to people is not because of their identities. It is not because of where they were born. It is only and only and only because of their vrittis and their karma. Okay, and again, this is not what I am saying. This is not what I am saying. This is what Vedvyas ji says. When he describes both Duryodhan and Yudhishthir, he says Duryodhan is what? Manyumaya Mahadrumam. He is a tree, a big tree of rage. The moola of that is Dhritarashtra, but it stands, the skandha of that is Karna. Okay, and for Yudhishthir he says he is a Dharmamaya Mahadruma, moola is Krishna and skandha is Arjuna. So Vedvyas is also not giving a free pass to Karna. And if you see Mahabharata, the way Karna has behaved, he has called upon his adugati. It is nothing to do with his birth. And in fact, that is the key lessons we learn from epics in general. The good and the bad people, yeah? It's not like one is completely bad and has no guna and the other is completely good and has only bad gunas. It's not that. But it does say that if one becomes overpowered by one or many of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mad, Matsarya to the extent that their entire life becomes only and only of that, destruction is definite. What Krishna says in Gita, in the second chapter, he says, Dhyayato Vishayan Punsaha संगस्तेषु उपजायते, संगात् संजायते काम, कामात् क्रोधो विजायते, क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः, सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रम, स्मृतिविभ्रमात् बुद्धिनाशो, बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. When you are overpowered by kama, krodha, lobha, moha, whatever, to the extent that you become so deluded that you don't even realize whether your action is right or wrong, good for you, bad for you, nothing at all. When it all becomes about what I like, what I like, what I like, rather than is it good for me, your destruction is certain. This is what happens to who we call the villains. Be it Ravan, be it Duryodhan, be it Karna. It is nobody else's fault, it is their fault. And with that angle, when you look at the epic, now we realize why they are called the Dharma Shastras, why they are called the Dharma Granthas, and why they are called the Pancham Veda. These are not for us to only judge them. Of course, we will judge what is right, what is wrong. But the most important point is, what is in it for us? What do we learn from that? And unless and until we know the itihas for what the itihas says, our learnings are going to be skewed. Okay, so I'll stop with that and open it up for questions. Okay? Let's start.
So continuing with the topic of Karna, in today's society we see so many people who have names as Karna, Karan, the derivative names, but we don't see anyone called Duryodhan. So when we say that our society, we call them Surputra, but still people in this society still call their kids Karna and not that. So isn't there like a two-way street where, okay, he's a villain, but he's called, like we have Arjuns, we have, names like that, but we don't have Duryodhan, but still we have those names, but he's a villain. So how a two-way street?
Well, that is just because people are unaware. People are just ignorant. Well, talking about Karna, we are coming from a samaj where even today I am asked, मैम मेरे को घर पे बुला है, महाभारत घर पे रखोगे तो महाभारत हो जाएगी. And hence we are told not to study the Mahabharata. I mean seriously, we are that people. Okay, so if we name somebody Karna, are we surprised? Mahabharata, for which it is said, Itihasa Pradipena Mohavarana Ghatina. This Itihas will cut, will destroy your ignorance. That Itihas, we are told, padho hi mat. Because padhoge to kya hoga? Mahabharata ho jayega. As if Mahabharata is a bad word. Okay. Who's done that to us? Us. We've done that to us. So a lot of times when people say, oh, Britishers at fault, this our fault, that at fault, because of them we are what we are. I said, no, of course, they've done what they did. Okay, but a larger part of the fault lies with us, our ignorance. So why people name it? Because of this. Padhte nahi hai na? Kahi suni batein. And there has been a trend to glorify Karna. Okay, why? Because somehow he's seen as an outsider. And then what people saw that we've had problems, yeah, we've had issues in the society. What does that link back to? Somehow they saw this guy, this Karna, who was a social rebel against the Jativad or whatever, yeah, without actually reading the actual story. And they created a narrative around him. Probably this is what has happened. And that is what has stuck. Now, Duryodhan, now you mentioned that, let me say this. A lot of people also tell me that, ma'am, actually Mahabharata is biased from the beginning. Okay, because who will name their son Duryodhan? We all want to name good names to our children, right? But Vedyaji has already gotten Dhritarashtra to name his son as Duryodhan, bad. Dushasan, bad. Clearly, the narrative was being set from the beginning. And then there are some authors who say actually the name is Suyodhan. Have you heard that? So actually it is Suyodhan, but because Vedyaji is biased, he is calling him Duryodhan everywhere. Now, let me tell you the meaning of Duryodhan and Suyodhan, and you tell me who is biased here, or who is stupid here. Okay, Duryodhan means Dukkhena Yodhaniyam. Suyodhan means Sukhena Yodhaniyam. Dukhena Yodhaniyam. One who is difficult to be defeated in a war. That is Duryodhan. Suyodhan is one who can be easily defeated in a war. You tell me this is a good name to keep. But a lot of authors who think my Ramayana, my Mahabharata, my Gita, they say actually it was a good name, it was a Suyodhan. But it is a bias which made him Duryodhan. No, it's not that. The name is actually good. You know, the word Suyodhan is actually used in Mahabharata. You know who calls him Suyodhan? The Pandavas call him Suyodhan. Not his own family. Okay? So again, nobody is biased. It is our ignorance that we fall for such random theories made by random people. But then again, can't really blame anybody. It's a huge grantha. It's not possible for everybody to read what they can read. And for all my issues with B.R. Chopraji about the Mahabharata, I still am extremely grateful to him that at least he made it mainstream. Because otherwise, Mahabharata rakhoge to Mahabharata ho jayegi. This is such a prevalent thought. Yeah. At least it's because of B.R. Chopraji that I am standing here today. So I can only be grateful to him.
Thank you for the talk. It's very insightful. And so I have one question. Basically, you mentioned that Vedavyas has been basically the source of why Mahabharata happened, and he was always there in Mahabharata. So, but then in the case of Ramayana, it is not the case. Basically, Valmiki comes in the Ramayana only at the end after Sita gets banished and she goes to his ashram and stuff like that. So, what do you think about Ramayana in terms of that? Why would Valmiki write Ramayana? And yeah, that's my question.
Yeah. So the Valmiki comes before also.
Okay.
When they are heading to Chitrakuta, the initial days of the Vanvas, when they are trying to find an ashram in Chitrakuta, they visit Valmiki's ashram there. Yeah. So he's a contemporary of Sri Ram. Even at that point, he doesn't come only in the end. Again, he's a rishi. And the inspiration, so the way Valmiki Ramayana starts is very interesting. It starts with a sambhashan of Narad Muni and Valmiki ji. Okay, and Valmiki ji asks a question. Kono asmi samprate loke, and then he gives a list of 16 characters. Dharmagnya, Kritagnyascha, Viryavan, vagere vagere. And towards the end he says, who's a chitam krodha, who has control over his anger, but when he is angry, when he becomes angry, yasya bhibhyati sarva devaha. Even Bhagwans are becoming angry, become scared when he becomes angry. Yeah. So he says, who is that one person today who has all these qualities? Narad Muni says, finding this many qualities in one person is not easy. But there is one, Ishwaku Kula Prabhava. One who comes, who's a Raja of the Ikshwaku Kula, Sri Ram. And Sri Valmiki knows him because he's met Sri Ram before, right? So then this happens, and then there's another story around that and all that. And at some point in his meditation, he is inspired to write. So in fact, it doesn't stop here. Narad Muni actually gives a summary of Sankshipta Ramayana. Okay? The entire life story is narrated by Narad Muni ji. And then we are told that Valmiki ji is inspired by Brahmadev himself to actually expand and write this story. And for that, Brahmaji tells him that not one word that you say will become anruta. Okay, Vak na anrutam bhave. None of the whatever you've said will become anruta. And the entire history, you will see like the Panav Amlakam Iva. Like a fruit, like amla kept on your hand, you will see it how in the Yogastha. When you are in the Yogastha Sthita, when you are in that Yogastha, the whole thing, what has happened till now and what is going to happen, you will see. Okay? So that's how it happens. Again, contemporary. So the other feature of Itihas is that it is written by contemporary. Hence, Purans are not called Itihas. Okay, because Pauranic, so if I have to differentiate between the two, I'll say in Itihas there is 80% Purva Vrittam maybe 15-20%, if at all, some of the metaphorical events mentioned, yeah, which could come under the mythology part. For Purans, it will be the other way around. They also have elements of Itihas. They have lineages mentioned and all of that. And actually, a lot of information from Puranas do help in constructing the genealogy and lineages and all of that. But it has more of the mythological elements, yeah? So, and also not written by contemporaries. So, Itihas written by contemporaries. This is the story for Valmiki. Okay? Yeah. Next question.
So I'll take.
Okay, after that. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, so I have two questions, both ending after casteism and Krishna is God. So we have Vidur.
One question.
Okay, one
Quickly.
question. Why was Vidur not made king if karma was the only thing? And if Krishna is God, the least we expect from God is to make the fight for the right person, not fight for the blood.
So, Vidur is not the son of a Rani of Vichitra Virya.
But you said karma, only karma.
No, but the lineage matters still, na? So, Vichitra Virya's sons have to be. That is for sure. Okay. But, if it was all Jati, would he have been made the Prime Minister?
I'm not talking about all that. I'm talking if it's only karma.
No, same thing, no? If Jati was the only thing, would he have been made the Prime Minister? Is the question.
So
Which means lineage of course mattered for the Rajas. Okay? That still mattered. But karma and samarthya has its own position. Otherwise he would have never been made the Prime Minister in the first place. Right? Next question.
Yeah, so historically, see, Ved Vyasa is called because of Ved. But if you see in the recent times, like coming from engineering background, like Vedas are supposed to be like more technical towards science. But like coming from a family that talks a lot about Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita or Ramayana. But like why is, I always felt like why is there no emphasis on Vedas? Like why are there no reading circles that talk about various Vedas and like how their spin-offs can use today's technology? But it's more towards the study circles will be in terms of Gitas and stuff. Like why is that?
Okay, so again, this is not a question completely related, but I'll just give you a direction which you can go and explore, right? Veda have two parts. One is the Karma Kanda and one is the Jnana Kanda. The Karma Kanda part deals largely with yagnas, the actual karma, the actions that you have to do. Okay, so it has a lot to do with sacrifices, karma, the yagna and all of that. But the Jnana Kanda is studied even now very seriously. The Jnana Kanda includes the Upanishads. Okay, so now इसमें जाके और आप अध्ययन करो because it's a very detailed area in itself. Okay, yeah. But the Vedas don't have any do's and don'ts in the sense of how to live your life. They give a direction. Everything else builds upon it. So the base still comes from there. Okay, but to actually make it more implementable and practical, we have the other granthas, which are Smritis. So Smriti are not distinct from the Vedas. Smritis are using Vedas as the base, the information coming from the Vedas as the base, but using it living the lives, not just the Karma Kandas. Even in the Karma Kandas, then you have the Sutras which expanded further. Okay? Yeah. Sorry.
So I had one question that Karna had to lie to Parshuram, right, to get. So why did he have to lie?
Well, he didn't have to, right? Parshuram was upset that he lied.
So
It was in his mind. A lot of it is his own assumptions. He didn't have to. That is why Parshuramji is angry and he curses him.
the way it is portrayed is he had, in order to get in, like in order to become his student, he had to lie.
That's what, how did he come up with that? Yeah, he had to. Did he try saying the truth? No, he starts with a lie. So we don't know what Parshuramji would have said if he would have said the truth. Yeah.
So it might be because I don't know. I'm asking.
That's okay, don't worry.
So from the stories I've heard, when in Ramayana, when after Rama and Sita take their throne, after they come back from Lanka, and Sita ji goes back to Valmiki ji's ashram when she is pregnant with Lavkush, but it is portrayed as if like they sent away a pregnant lady to a forest. And so I just want to know what is your take, like what is the actual story?
Okay, good. So the question essentially is whether Uttarakhand, how do we see the Uttarakhand? Okay, so in Ramayana, we have the first 6 kandas and then the Uttarkanda. A lot of people believe, so this incident about Sitaji's Parityaga comes in Uttarkanda, the Parityaga after the Rajabhishek. Lot of people today believe that Uttarkanda was probably not the part of actual Ramayana written by Valmiki. Okay, however, a lot of Paramparic Gurus also believe that Uttarkanda is very much a part of Valmiki Ramayana. Okay, because there could have been, for people who say that it was not a part of Valmiki Ramayana, also have very strong reasons. Because you see that there are inconsistencies from the very stories which have been mentioned before as well. Okay, but to discard the whole of Uttarkanda just because of that is also not completely right. Because those who say this is a part of Valmiki Ramayana also have strong reasons for it. So if you actually see the arguments to and pros and cons of it, right, like to and against it, unless and until you really take a stand out of some shraddha, you will never reach an answer. Okay, so where are we right now? Do we actually know whether it's there or whether it's not there? No. Okay, then what to do? Actually, this was a very big dilemma I faced when writing the book. Okay, whether to take it or not take it. Because those who believe it was not there are fanatically believing that it is not there. And those who believe it is there, fanatically believe it is there. Okay, and am I qualified enough to actually take this way or the other? No. But what I saw when I actually studied the Uttarkanda is that this episode is probably not meant to be read as we read it. Okay, so what I did is, I took that one another episode and put them as epilogue towards the end of the book. So if somebody believes it is there, they can read it. If somebody believes it is not there, they can leave it. Okay, but I still believe that this episode is a very interesting one and must be read. So if you guys want, I can take I'll take at least 10 minutes to explain it.
Sure.
Okay. So, does Sri Ram send Sita Ma away when she's pregnant? In Uttarkanda, if we believe Uttarkanda, yes. Okay, what happens? We are told that there is we hear about this Dhobi story, right? It is not a Dhobi story. What happens is this, that Sri Ram is sitting in his darbar and a lot of Rajas use Nata Nartakis and all of that to get intelligence, like ground intelligence from them, because they are in touch with people, right? So he has this group of Nata Nartakis who he's talking to, and he's like, okay, how is everybody doing? What are they talking about? Me, Lakshman, Bharat, vagere, vagere. Are they happy with the policies? This, that. So it's a discussion going on. So amongst them, there is this person called Bhadra. Bhadra says, this is good, that is good, everybody's very happy. They're still talking about how you defeated Ravan, all that he's going on saying. At some point, he becomes chup. And Sri Ram is like, don't worry, tell me what's going on. Just tell me what's going on, I can listen. If they want me to correct something, I will correct. So please, he basically saying, I'm open to feedback, give me feedback. Yeah. So Bhadra hesitatingly says that there's one thing which people have been talking about. And they still have questions around Sita Ma. Okay. They are saying that how does Sri Ram actually stay with her when she spent a year in the Kridasthal of Ravan. Ashok Vatika was a Kridasthal, right? She spent such a long time in the Kridasthal of Ravan. How is he comfortable just bringing her back? And they say that because of this, Yatha Raja Tatha Praja, we are not able to control our spouses. Everybody is doing what they want. Because they say, he took Sita Ma back, no? What's your problem? So this is a Loka Apvad that is happening. Obviously, Sri Ram is shocked. Okay. So he looks at everybody else and he's like, have you guys also heard this? All of them look down. And they're like, Maharaj, this is a Loka Apvad. Everybody in Ayodhya has been gossiping only about this. Okay. Obviously, Sri Ram is very, very, very unhappy. He calls Lakshman and he says, I knew this will happen. Hence, I made her do Agni Sakshi. Right? I knew this will happen. But now what do I do? And we are told he sends Sitama. Okay. The question is this. What should he have done differently? What were the options in front of him? Okay. So let's understand the situation from his perspective and then Sitama's perspective. Both. Let's try and understand it. Because as I said, Itihas is for us to take lessons from. Okay. Not only to judge. Right, wrong, jo bhi hua is, that's one thing. But the question is, what is in it for us? Because the Itihas is meant for us to take lessons from. Okay. So when Sri Ram says that I knew this was going to happen and hence I made her do the Agni Pariksha, now what to do? Now again this apad has happened and clearly I can't let the people down. Why? Because at that time, Raja's word was Nyaya. Okay, it was not like today that they could just leave and go. Ayodhya had waited 14 years. First of all, Ayodhya had wanted Sri Ram to be the king. Right? And his coronation was not just Dashrath's request. Dashrath had called a sabha where the proposal was floated and everybody was asked to weigh in whether they agree with this or not. And everybody had unanimously said they want Sri Ram. Okay, so it was not just Dashrath's decision. So anyways, they waited 14 years after that for him to become the king. So, Raja's word was Nyaya. Which means if Raja's word has to be taken seriously, he has to be beyond questioning. Okay. Now, how does he become beyond questioning? By removing anything that is leading to his questioning. Clearly, this was a situation of a big dharma sankat of Raj dharma versus Pati dharma. Knowing fully well that Sitaji was completely not at fault in any way. He says this during Agni Pariksha also, na? So let's also understand the Agni Pariksha episode while we are here, because I know that question is also in a lot of people's mind, right? So a lot of people say, why did he question her at all? Did he not trust her, right? So when the Yuddha happens and the whole description of his situation when Sitaji is kidnapped is something that will move the stone. He has burned, he has cried, he has fainted in her viraha. He did all he could to make a pull which was a Bhagirathi task at that point, to go to Lanka, kill Ravan and get Sitama. And still, after all this, when she comes in front of him, now when first time Hanumanji goes to Ashok Vatika and tells Sitama that, I have been sent by Sri Ram, Sitama asks that how is he doing? And Hanumanji says, Tava adarshana, not seeing you, he is in shoka, he is burning. He is absolutely unhappy. He cannot sleep. All this he had said. Okay. And now when Sitama comes face to face with him after 1 year, this man says, I am not here for you. You go wherever you want to. I am here just for the name of my kula. Okay. And like all of us are shocked, even the people around him are shocked, including Lakshman. Because they all know what his situation was. Okay. And of course Sitaji becomes upset because she's been waiting. Every breath she's counting just to see her husband, right? So she's crying, she becomes upset and she says, why are you talking to me like an uncivilized man talks to an uncivilized woman? Don't you trust me? And if you don't trust me, fair enough, I must die. And she says, Chitam Kuru Saumitra. Hey Saumitra, light up the chitta. If I am pure, if I have only kept Sri Ramji in my mind and all that, Mama Pahi, Agni Mama Pahi, hey Agnidev, protect me. Okay. And then we know the whole thing happens and Agnidev comes and says, Asyam papam na vidyate, there is no papa in her. You know what does Sri Ram say? Immediately. He says, Ananyam hridayam Sita, Machittam parivartinim, Ahamapi avagachami. Rohan, Ahamapi avagachami, what does it mean?
Like, I'm
I also know. Gachami no, avagachami.
Leaving.
Okay, no, that's doesn't matter. Avagachami means I know. I also understand. I am in knowing. I know that there is no papa in her. Why? Because Ananya Hridayam Sita Matchitta Parivartinim. I know she thinks only and only about me. Her heart is only in me. He says, Ravan had no aukat of doing anything on her. Why? Because Svena Tejasa Rakshita. She was protected by her own Tejas. Ravan couldn't have done anything to her. And from me, she is as inseparable as the Prabha of the Surya. You cannot separate the aura of the sun from the sun. Like that, there is no way anybody can separate her from me. But I still did this. Why? He says, Pratyartham tu lokanam upekshate pravishanti hutashinim. For the proof of the world, so that world knows I did not stop her from entering the Agni. Not because I had ever any doubt. I never had a doubt. Okay, so this is the situation that has played out. Now while I am at it, the immediate question asked is, why should she only give a test? Why not Sri Ram? Okay, now let's remember one thing. That was a time and age where a king married multiple women. And it made strategic sense to marry multiple women. There was no compulsion whatsoever on Sri Ram to not marry. No compulsion. The reason he did not marry was only and only and only because of his love for Sita. Okay, that is one. Second, he was also tested. Just on different parameters. And tested by whom? Sita ji herself. When Hanumanji comes to Ashok Vatika, he tells her, Prushta Maroha, you come on my back, I will take you away right way. Okay, come with me. She says, no, what if I fall down? But she says, more importantly, if I come with you, no, what will happen? The yasha will go to you, not my husband. Yeah? It will be a stigma on my husband that he couldn't protect his wife and couldn't even rescue her. So it is only befitting for him that he comes here and he rescues me. Now think of it. They had no clue how the whole Vanarsena and Shri Ram were going to come to Lanka. There was no pull. Right? She has no clue how she doesn't even know about the Vanarsena for that matter, right? She has no clue how her husband will come and kill thousands of Rakshasas of Ravan. But that was not her concern. Her concern was what? मेरे पति के सर पे कलंक ना लगे. What was Sri Ram's concern? मेरे पत्नी के सर पे कलंक ना लगे. And hence, they made them do whatever they had to do. So weren't they equally in that situation? And does that not show the bond of theirs? That they are both worried about the other. Okay, now after all this, we still have the Sita Parityag happening. So then what? How do we understand that? Again, when Sri Ram finally sees Sita Ma in Lanka, he realizes that till now he was only the husband. Now they are going to go back. He's not just the husband, he's a Raja. Okay, so when the Lokapavad happens, he's in a fix. What should he do? Raj Dharma versus Pati Dharma. Okay, his father was faced with the same conflict. What did his father do? Pati Dharma. You know what Sri Ram says about him? At some point in Vanvas, he says, my father gave in to Kama, and one who puts Kama over Dharma, his adhogati has to happen. That is what happened to my father. Okay. He is in a same situation. Raj Dharma versus Pati Dharma. Both the options, this happens in life a lot of times. This is what Dharma Sankat is all about. that sometimes in life we are faced with a situation where all the options available are equally bad. Devil versus the deep sea. What do you do? But if you're a leader, you still have to make a choice. There is no way out. If you take one choice, the other side will obviously suffer. If you take that side, this side will obviously suffer. What do you do? What were the options for him? One, he did what he did. Let Sita Ma go away. Other, he could have said, okay, if you don't like my wife, doesn't matter, I will go with her. You know, तभी क्या बोलते हैं हम? बाप जैसा बेटा. Right? That could have been a thought as well. He gave up his Raj Dharma just for his wife. Today, we might think of it as a big deal, as a good thing, right? And I like to give this example. Recently, there was this incident where a cricketer, there was a finals match, and his daughter was being born. He gave up the finals match to be with his daughter, and we all hailed him. Only 20 years back, this would not have been looked down upon positively, would not have been looked upon positively. Because you are playing your country's final. It is the question of your country's honor, and you are leaving it just to be with your daughter. Okay. Now, there will never be a rule which 100% agrees with this or 100% agrees with that. We will always be split over it. Something as simple as this. Here, we are talking about a Raja who is a Chakravartin Raja. Okay. He chose his Raj Dharma. That was also the first lesson he received from Vishwamitra ji. When it came to killing of Tadka, Tadka was a lady. Sri Ram was like, how can I kill a lady? It is Papa. And Vishwamitra ji had told him, Rishasam or Rishasam va, Praja Rakshana Karana, Patakam Sadosham va, Kartavya Rakshata Sada, Rajabhara Niyuktanam, Eshaha Dharma Sanatanaha. Be it good, be it bad, be it Papapurna or be it not be Papapurna. If it is important for your Praja, one who has been given the responsibility of Rajkarya, he has to choose his Praja. Doesn't matter good or bad, doesn't matter right or wrong. If the Praja wants it and it is in the hita of the Praja, he must do it. This is what Raj Dharma requires of a Raja. He chose his Raj Dharma. But does that mean it was right on Sita Ma? No. It was still injustice on her. But Sita Ma was also not just a wife. She was also a Rani. So her role, her responsibility to ensure, we have this saying, no, scissors wife has to be beyond questioning. Same thing. She understands it, and that is why she doesn't complain. She's like, it is my kartavya also to ensure there is no question raised on him. Okay. However, when Sri Ram requests again for her to take a pratigya, she draws a line. She says, she doesn't say it, but what does she say? We know she takes a pratigya. But this time the pratigya is, if I have always been committed to Sri Ram, Hey Dharti Ma, take me in. She puts her foot down and she says, I will not come back. I have lived my life as a fully, I have lived my Patni Dharma, my Mata Dharma, my Rani Dharma completely. But now is enough. That request was crossing the line of her self-respect. And she drew that line. And hence her character shines out in that episode. Tragic, no doubt. Even today, even Bhaktas blame Sri Ram for that. But if we want a leader, if we are in a situation where a leader is faced with choosing between the Praja and his personal life, what would we expect? Obviously the praja, more often than not. As I said, not everybody will agree. Then why do we cast a question mark on Sri Ram? Of course, we are emotionally attached. This is an episode that hurts. It hurts like nothing else. But the question is, how do we deal with dharma sankatas in our life, especially when we are leaders? Sometimes this is what you have to do. And live with the consequences. There is no running away. Again, he could have married. He didn't. By that, he also showed his own people that I did what I did because you wanted it. But it is not because I don't trust her. I still do. My commitment still stays with her. But I am not running away from my responsibility towards you. It is very easy to judge Ram. It is not easy to be Ram. Are we done with the time?